welcome to our podcast at the FPEA convention. That's the homeschool convention here in Orlando. We're really excited about all the incredible influencers that we've been able to get to know and meet. And we have just met an incredible influencer, and it is David Richardson. And David, I am so intrigued by your book here, Transparent, and it says how to see through the powerful assumptions that control you. And so I'm just really grateful that you stopped by our booth, and just I'm not really sure how you came to our booth, but it was just awesome what you're saying, because now we have a friend in Brad Bright.
Yes.
And so we have some great connections and good friends that we have. But tell our audience, David, what is it? Tell us a little bit about you, but then tell us about this book. This is an incredible book here, and David's going to be doing a workshop, tomorrow at the homeschool convention. If you're around and you see this, you can come on Saturday to listen to David and so many other incredible authors and people that are really making a difference and getting us to think. Mm-hmm. Because I think we talked about that we have become a nation of non-thinkers. Non-thinkers. So
that's true.
Tell our audience about your book called Transparent. You see, it's right here, and it's awesome. It's by David W. Richardson. So tell us a little bit about the book and about you.
Sure. Well, Transparent is a book about critical thinking. But I've been doing apologetics for 40 years, and one of the things that I've discovered is that most people really aren't into that. They're just not thinkers. And yet, unless you can get people to become that, how do you simplify something to the place where a regular person could do this? Because I have 2 postgraduate degrees. One of them's from the University of Oxford.
Already over my head, but that's okay.
I'm from the University of Oxford.
Oh, wow.
And I have been working with college professors for 2 decades at schools like Georgia Tech and Harvard and many other places, helping reach people for Christ, help professors connect truth-based in God and the Bible to their classroom instruction. And along the way, I developed this method to help professors do that, and I discovered that this is actually so simple, I can teach it to middle schoolers and high schoolers so that they can acquire a critical thinking skill for themselves. They don't have to be told what's true. They can figure it out for themselves, so that when they're on their own in the university, because I know what the university's like, as well as in the workforce or in the military or wherever their young adult life takes them, they'll flourish in their faith instead of losing it. They'll learn how to engage the culture and bring truth-based in God in the Bible to influence others for Christ. Mm-hmm. So we're all about critical thinking. The interesting thing is the method that I've developed is an actual system that you can learn it in a few hours, and if you practice it, we've automated it with a phone app.
So there's an app for that?
There's an app for that.
Well, tell our audience about the app.
The app is the Transparent app.
Oh, okay.
So if you go to thetransparentbook.com, which is the website for the book, there's not only...
so it's The Transparent.
Thetransparentbook.com.
Okay.
You'll find out how to download both for iPhones and Android devices. There's also links to some of our other resources. If you go to learntodiscern.com, you'll find our brand new courses for teaching this system.
Oh, wow. What was that website again?
Learntodiscern.com.
Learn to discern. And boy, do we need to discern. We don't have real discernment today.
Discernment is not an innate skill. It's something that requires training and practice.
Wow.
So this system that we've developed is something we can train people with, and then they can practice it, because the scripture tells us that solid food is for the mature, who because of practice have their senses trained to discern good and evil. It doesn't happen automatically just because you're exposed to truth. That's actually the problem that we're facing today, is a crisis of truth.
Yes.
And if you don't, what we typically do is we expose students to truth through homeschooling, Christian schools, Christian ministries, discipleship, other things like that, without any instruction on how to recognize anything as true. The parents know it's true, but how do the students figure it out? If we don't intentionally teach them how to recognize truth as truth, they'll recognize nothing as true. It's just true for you. It's true for you, but not for me.
It's all on emotion right now.
Yes,
right?
it's all on emotion.
If the parent doesn't know truth, then we perpetuate the lie and the legacy down the road, because I've been taught, you've been taught, and it's all based on a lie.
Yes.
So.
Not only that, but this crisis of young people leaving the church. Right now, it's about 65% of young people that grow up in Christian homes, Christian schools, Christian ministries, within a few years of high school graduation, walk away from the faith. Few ever come back. Pine Top Foundation estimates it's 1 million a year right now.
Wow.
And it's continuing to slowly increase.
Wow.
So either the church is oblivious to it, or what we're doing isn't working. George Barna actually recommends that a genuine Christian leader faced with these statistics has to turn to something totally different, because what we're doing is not working.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I do deal a lot with pastors, and I was working with FRC and helping them, just sit with pastors, and I've sat with probably about 370 some odd pastors, and it's stunning to me. And I hate to say it, I really do, it grieves me, but so many of these pastors, half of them shouldn't be behind that pulpit.
Sure.
And it's just, they're not preaching the whole counsel. They're afraid to it's the culture that's driving the church instead of the church driving the culture. And they're going to be held accountable for what they say or what they don't say behind that pulpit. And if there's not some real truth, from biblical truth, not your feelings, not what you think, or because you don't want to say anything because you don't want to preach the whole counsel. Because if you talk about the transgender issue or the marriage is between a man and a woman, people are going to leave their church. So it's about money. They don't want to lose their,
their donors.
Their donors.
Right.
It's like, well, I think people are looking for people, and tell me, Richard, what you think, but that, or David, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
David, that people are looking for people that their yes is their yes and their no is their no. And this could help them really,
Yes.
So I noticed on the front of that book, you were showing that you have there's like a questionnaire or something.
Yes, it's what's called the critical assumptions test.
Oh my God.
So what I'm not focusing on complex ideologies, sophisticated arguments,
So
those
you're
kinds
making
of
this
things.
simple.
Yes.
Okay, we need simple.
The reason I do that, even though I have all this academic background, the dirty secret is I'm the son of a truck driver. I grew up in a single wide trailer house. I'm just as comfortable with farmers and loggers and mechanics as I am with business leaders, politicians, and professors. I know how to translate that world for regular people to get a hold of it and use it. And so we've simplified the process of discerning truth down to a simple test that can discern whether the message in the media, in the classroom, or in the culture is true or not, and how to relate truth from God and the Bible to those situations. And with a little practice using the system, you can do it in 30 seconds.
Wow.
30 seconds.
Wow, that's awesome.
Because I'm not focused on the complicated arguments. I'm looking at the simple assumptions that makes that argument possible.
Wow, that's good.
So if the assumption is true, probably what you're being told is true. But if the assumption is false, I don't care how great it makes you feel, how persuasive it may seem, anything built on false assumptions has to be false, even if you don't understand the argument. So that's why I can teach it to middle schoolers and high schoolers, because they haven't had all that education, but they can get at that little thing underneath it and say, oh, that's not true. What is true? That. And so you can relate truth from God and the Bible to it. So in my booth, what I'm doing is I'm playing clips from TV shows and movies.
Wow, that's so good.
Music videos, those kinds of things. And I said, what's the message underneath the message? Then we walk through those 4 steps, and the parents discover for themselves, oh, that's not true. Of course it's not. What is true? That. Oh, so now you know what's true, you know what's not, and you can talk about God in relationship to a Marvel comic movie if you want to.
That's so good. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Well, I really would like for everybody to go, tell us your website again.
Sure. It's AssumptionsInstitute.org is our organization. Then you can find out about our courses for training to use this new discernment system at learntodiscern.com. And we have short video courses for individual study and small groups.
Anybody can go on there?
Anybody can do it.
Okay.
And then we also have semester-long courses for Christian schools, for homeschools, and for homeschool co-ops that we're developing, so that we can help develop a whole army of people, not just a few educated intellectual types, but regular people can discern truth for themselves, so that they're not deceived by the messages of the world, and they can relate truth from God and the Bible back to those things, so that the church can begin to take the lead in the culture rather than lagging behind.
Wow, that's so good. Well, David, I just want to thank you so much David, for coming and being with us today. I am very intrigued. I can't wait to go to your booth. I really like that book. It's called Transparent, and you can go to his website. It's thetransparentbook.com, thetransparentbook.com, and go check this out with David Richardson.
It's also available as an audiobook or an ebook, so it's not just a print book.
And the app, we have to go through that app.
And you can get at the Transparent Book, you can get the links to the app.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for being here. This is really, I'm just real excited. I'm so excited that you know Brad also.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we have a good common friend, but God bless you for what you're doing. We so need critical thinking.
So thanks for having me.
And when we show up, we win. So we need to show up to get more critical thinking and. But go to womenimpactingthenation.org. You'll be able to see this podcast again and get to know David and get this book, because it's really important. We don't need to be watching the boob tube. It's not what they're saying. It's what they're not saying. And we assume that they're saying good things because it sounds good, and anything that sounds good is a red flag. But and we all know what assume means. But anyway, we just thank you for joining us. Thank you, David, again for joining us, and we will see you on our next podcast. God bless you.